No, it's all good. Good for the
Was it that
cardio.
long of a walk? How long was the walk?
10, 15.
My bad about that. I thought I took the right one.
Hi.
So,
You really
I
like
think-
is
It
Carnina
is
zooming in?
No, not yet. I think I have a feeling that they will before it ends.
Live already?
Brittany told me she had popcorn ready and that she's been preparing for this for 2
Why?
weeks. I don't know. They're under the impression that you and I, since we're the politicos in the office, are just going to like...
I'm not a
Head
political.
to head.
You're not a politico?
No, I'm not
Really?
a politico. No way. If I was a politico, I'd be donating money to people, and I don't do
You
that.
donate money to the NRA.
Well, every month.
That's a lot of money.
Mic check?
Testing 1, 2, check, check.
What do you want me to say?
Creative.
Mine?
Calvin.
Checking. Do people actually say that?
I don't know.
Mic check,
I
mic
mean,
check.
you said it, so I guess it's a thing now.
Everybody's good? Check the
I feel powerful.
I never like the way my voice sounds when people
I never do either. I always hear it. I'm like, oh, why does that sound like?
Why sound so hazy?
I just think I sound like a dork.
You don't sound like a door.
I do. I do on the radio.
Oh my god. I should turn it off. Because I just have a feeling.
And that's done.
Peace and the failures.
People watching are like, why is
Why you like to get thrown with the camera? Okay, let's just
There's 7 people watching. I feel like they're going to stop watching because we're not doing anything yet.
don't go nowhere. We'll
Don't
be right
go
back.
nowhere.
I thought Brittany liked
Go to Nordstrom.
Brittany
Buy
does like
everything
you.
there.
Brittany is just excited to see us go at it because she knows that I'm passionate about my politics and you're passionate about your guns.
That's about it.
That's about it.
Ad post news.
Actually, James, can you go live to get those people and then I could just share from your page?
Well,
You want
my
to know
battery
battery?
I got left.
That is
57.
awful. Who is that? I have no idea who that is sending me messages right now. Hi, Anthony. Anthony is my best friend. Hi, I don't... What's his name?
It's Calvin.
Calvin. Hi, Calvin. Jerry Ford. Hi, Jerry Ford. And Serena and Raquel. Hi, everybody. We're about to get started in just a minute whenever KG comes back. So if you guys would just hang on for like a second, we're going to get started.
You got some dedicated followers, you know, they're watching tape and
I'm surprised, actually. Lately, they hadn't really,
I'd have went live and had 0 people watching.
Aw, that's
Y'all
okay.
are special. You're the first people on earth to watch the radio.
Yeah, that's the thing that I think is so cool. Like, I really like the ability to do live stuff and technology now. I think it's cool. And, like, my followers, they think it's like a special treat. They're like, ooh, I get to watch you before it airs on Sunday. That's, like, super exclusive.
We just don't want any
I like
Antonio
it.
Brown things happening.
No, I'm just like, y'all just not going to do it.
What's your name, my man? Calvin. Nice to meet you.
You're not going to get
Calvin.
any hate mail. Sometimes I get hate mail, though.
Really?
Believe
What's
it or
your
not,
last name,
I
sir?
do.
Maynard, M-A-Y-N-A-R-D.
Hey, Kaylin.
Hi.
Oh, she said, hey to you.
Steve
Hi.
Moss.
Go do something else. Don't watch me.
What? That's not nice thing to say to your girlfriend.
It's very nice. You know what? You know, maybe I'm
Y'all
a little
ready?
nervous. I was watching
Yeah,
every.
his
Okay,
girlfriend is watching him, so he feels some kind of way now.
hold up now. You know,
Oh,
Hey, Kaylin.
he's fine.
You're fine.
Here we go.
we're doing this. Okay.
Good Sunday morning. You are listening to Access Houston. Time for our Access Houston Roundtable. Welcoming back Mr. James Burnett. Good morning, sir.
Good to be here.
The lovely Samantha Blair.
Hi. Hello,
How
KG.
are-
Hi.
And 2 newcomers, Mr. Calvin Maynard.
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 Greetings from the past to the future.
Welcome, Calvin.
Glad to be
and,
here.
and Mr. Steve Moss. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. So, back at it again.
Oh, no. I thought we
Dang,
left 2016
Daniel.
behind us.
Dang, Donald.
You know,
Dang, Donald.
20 days
I wish
feels
we
like
could
40.
leave 2016 behind us. I bet 2016 is probably sitting back smoking a cigarette like, oh, you thought I was bad, huh?
It's like a bad ex that just keeps on texting you after you said no. Like, come
So,
on,
you know,
2016.
we've had a lot of things. Let's talk about the immigration ban, which is no longer a Muslim ban. At first it was a Muslim ban, and then it wasn't a ban, and now it's an immigration ban, and it has made it to the Ninth Circuit Court, which they unanimously upheld
Is
the
it
ban. Okay, and now looks like it may go to the Supreme Court. President Trump tweeted Friday that he would not appeal the ban if it went to the Supreme Court and they, deemed it unlawful, unconstitutional.
Surprisingly enough, he actually walked back on that about 2 hours ago.
Oh, he did.
Well,
Please.
Yeah,
Please.
he's opened that door back up again.
Okay, so not calling it a Muslim ban. 82% of the immigrants that have come to the U.S. have come from the 7 countries that are now banned. So not calling it a Muslim ban is questionable. And then secondary to that is the fact that he said that he would give priority. Don't look at me like that, Steve. He said that he would give priority to Christian immigrants coming into the country. And so, I mean, if it walks like a duck.
I mean, there's so many things that just from a logical standpoint, when you look at it, forget who you vote for. Just look at it on the surface. Does it really make sense?
No.
Here's
the 7 countries.
Here's the thing.
None of them have done terrorist attacks on the U.S. But Saudi
the-
Arabia is out. The United States Emirates is
Yeah.
out. You know what I'm saying? Like all the ones that really attacked us are not on the list.
I think
now,
what's
I don't
really
get it.
fascinating about this and needs to be discussed intelligently is that Obama did the same thing in 2015. The
Yes.
exact same ban.
Not exactly the same.
And he
did
paused
a
it.
delay.
Yes, he did a delay.
He
and
did a
that-
delay
and that's
for the
exactly what
Iraqi-
Donald Trump did. If you read the executive
It's
order,
a 90-day delay
It's a
for people who
pause.
have visas.
it's a pause for 120 days.
Oh, excuse me,
Okay,
120.
on all non-U.S. citizens coming to the United States from these 7 countries, and it's a 90-day ban on what was it? There was something else to it. It was 120 days and then a 90-day ban, but it was a pause technically, and it was
Okay.
the exact same executive order that Obama signed in 2015. So to call it a Muslim ban is something that's really interesting to me because
well, that's what they said.
Their words.
I do-
We're
Right.
not using
Yeah,
their words.
no, this is
Because
something
consider
that
that
Don't,
this
don't
is
count me in on this.
this
Well,
is
but
this is
82%
something that is absolutely fascinating to me about Donald Trump
Okay.
and our whole political discussion right now, and that is that we both liberal and conservative, I think, confuse what Donald Trump does with what Donald Trump says with what other people interpret Donald Trump as saying. See what I mean?
I
So
do.
this-
Surprisingly,
the same thing.
Steve, I do. Actually.
I do. So I think what happens is Donald Trump does something, and we get, oh my God, Donald Trump did something. And then we hear what Donald Trump says or tweets, and we think, oh God, what's he doing now? And then the interpretation of what he says and tweets, okay, gets really confused. For example, Governor or Mayor de Blasio, in his speech that he made before a bunch of Muslim citizens of New York, he said that, to the Muslim citizens of New York, if you have to register, we're going to protect you. Nobody's talking about registering Muslims. Nobody's talking about doing anything. But his interpretation of what Donald Trump tweeted about banning Muslims versus what he actually did, which was the same executive order that Obama signed, has turned into a lot of confusion about what is actually happening. And I think the only way that you can have a rational discussion about this is you look at what he actually did, look at the executive orders he signed, then get angry about that. But let's not talk about what he's tweeting, and let's not talk about what other people are saying that he's tweeting. Does
Well,
that
I
make
just
sense?
had a follower that
Okay.
said Donald Trump is confused on what Donald Trump
Donald,
says. I think
that's probably
pretty-
very, very accurate statement, because I think the problem that I have with Donald Trump is that he goes down these rabbit holes when he speaks, and anybody who knows anything about public speaking knows that that's just a no-no. And he's going to get himself in more trouble sooner or later.
Yeah, I
But
mean, he's so
largely,
self-consumed.
you supported it, right? Like,
Well,
it was.
I like what, now if you want to talk about what he's done for the last 100 days, okay, the things that he has done,
Yeah.
I think that some of the things that he's done has been fantastic. And I think that a lot of the things that he says he's going to do are good, but a lot of things that other people say that he says he's going to do is really, really suspect. And I would be the first to stand up and say, hey, no, some of that's wrong. Because if you're going to go register Muslim people, all right, I would be the first person to stand up and say, no, that's not right.
Of course.
Just like I'm the first person to stand up and say, if you register gun owners, that's not right either. So that's the reality. So I think what anybody needs to do who's got any brain needs to sit down and look what he does versus what he says versus what other people say.
I studied a lot about what he's done. I put in. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I think that the primary issue I have with Donald Trump is that the verbiage surrounding him pretty accurately sums up his approach, what he has done, what he will do. If you look over the course of his career, he's always been something of a private autocrat. He's been president, CEO, majority shareholder. He doesn't consult anybody about anything. And now he works
Got
by
Steve Bannon in his ear now.
I
executive
think that's a
order
little unfair.
in a system that is designed to prevent centralization of power into one branch. The rhetoric has always been, I alone can solve. And I find that an extremely dangerous mindset.
Yes.
Because it's not about a person, personalities, deals, interactions. It's about the infrastructure of law and government and the
But-
legal precedent for something that
Okay,
you're
so
setting up for the
now
last,
what you've done is
hopefully, centuries.
you've gone down the road of what people think about Donald Trump versus what he's actually done. If we look at what he's actually done, we look at his people that he's appointed to, or the people that he has.
Disaster.
Oh, I know.
about
Here we
that.
go. I'm
Fact,
going to
yeah.
go into the cabinet members. One of the things that's fascinating about almost
Billion-dollar
all
cabinet.
of them.
We could talk about that.
About
Because,
oh, look at you flipping your notes around. You're just going nuts.
oh, yeah. Because his cabinet alone
Okay.
has more wealth than 2/3 of the bottom half of America. That's 100 million
Well, that's
people.
because those are the people he knows.
His
But
cabinet.
the problem is that almost none of those people, almost none, I think there was 2 of his confirmed cabinet picks so far, have actually donated to his campaign.
I get that.
Ms.
I saw that.
DeVos,
Yeah.
Ms. DeVos came out for
Jeb Bush, yeah.
and then she was following
Cruz, wasn't
Cruz
she?
for a
Yeah.
while, and then somebody else, and she was a latecomer,
God,
but he still chose her to be on his cabinet. And if you look at all the people, they were not part of his supporters from the beginning, which is unusual. And I find that really interesting about the guy because he is not politics as we have come to understand it. He embodies. He's taken the entire book, political playbook, of this entire country and has thrown it completely out the window.
Oh,
So when you
absolutely.
talk about 2016 was the old playbook. We're living in a whole new world right now where this
But there
guy,
is still
And I-
this document that this country loves and cherishes called the United States Constitution.
Right.
I think someone should have given Donald Trump the Constitution for Christmas so he could read it.
Well, I
and
think
that
that's a little
way
snarky. That's a little snarky. I mean,
but let's be
he
honest.
understands the Constitution.
I
Does
don't
he?
think so.
Did he
I'm sure
read
he
it?
does.
I don't think so
Sure
because
he
then he does think. I mean, I really want to get back to his appointments, right?
All right,
But then
all
I
right.
also want to talk about the fact that he said that for sanctuary cities, he would restrict grants to sanctuary cities.
Yeah.
Now that can't apply. That can't honestly apply to sanctuary cities, honestly, because that can only apply to new grants. So if he was
Mm-hmm.
to introduce a new grant, sure, you can take that grant away, but you can't take away the old grant. So what was the point of even introducing
Well,
that?
I'm pretty sure he can because what you're talking about is Congress can allocate funds, and those funds go to the Treasury Department, and then that's a branch of the federal government, so or the executive branch. So at that point, his people who works for him in the Treasury Department, they can decide not to sign those checks.
Well, it will have to go through the Attorney General. It'll have to go through Homeland Security. It'll have to go through all these loops and these bounds. But why introduce something that's going to have to go through so many loops and bounds?
But he
if
controls
you know
all of those, so it's all right,
he controls the Attorney General right now
Yeah.
because it's Sessions.
right?
But why would he appoint somebody like Sessions? Going back to the appointments, Sessions couldn't even be
Well,
confirmed.
no, we're
as a
going back to
judge.
sanctuary cities. We're
Okay,
talking about
let's
that.
go back to sanctuary cities. But
I
what's
don't
the
want you
point?
going down a rabbit hole like Trump. Come on.
But again, what is the point of restricting sanctuary cities? Why would you want to do that?
Because you want
Where's the humanity?
It's a rule of law.
I mean,
issue.
but the issue with the sanctuary cities is that these cities are set up as sanctuary cities to protect, well, I won't say citizens. If they're undocumented, then I guess we can't call them citizens. But people who have lived here for decades and for years and for generations already, who want to continue to have their families and continue to have access to education. And he's saying, hey, well, that's not fair. They don't have documentation, so I want to knock on their door and I
Well,
want to take
here
them out.
is the at root heart between liberalism and conservatism. Okay, and that is that liberalism, kind of goes from the heart. They throw logic out the window, and
Really?
then conservatives are kind of like, no, it's not logical what you're asking to do. It's humane. I'll give you that. It would be nice. I would love to say,
Humane
hey,
to who?
well, I would say, hey, it's nice to have everybody come here and have it be candy canes and, fairies and be wonderful. But the reality is that there is a lot of people, especially in Texas, that come here illegally and do commit crimes, more so than any other state in the country.
I mean, lots of people
And
do
so
things or commit
what
crimes.
you want to do, right, but you want to, I would hope that you wouldn't want those crimes being committed on just anybody. If you could stop crime, wouldn't it be nice to
But they,
at least cut
we
it
don't
back a
have
little
any
bit?
documentation that undocumented immigrants are the source of crime.
And that's
like,
my
where's
problem.
it
But
coming
that's the
from?
problem.
That's my problem with him. He's spitting out things that
Right.
I know things, and he won't reveal the
No, no,
numbers
no.
or doesn't
So-
say the source. And
So
it's like,
when Rick
so where does
Perry,
this come from?
when Rick Perry was
Rick
governor,
Perry is
he said,
I'm
he's not
sorry.
the Antichrist.
I mean, there's no more
But-
women's health
but
program,
the-
so that makes him the Antichrist.
But the point is, he put out a topic where how was it? It was a press thing a couple years ago when Obama was supposed to come down to the border and didn't, and Sean Hannity went instead, and got a tour of the border. They had the immigration officials had documented over 600,000 crimes, from petty crime right on up to murder, that happen per year here in Texas, committed by illegal immigrants.
Wow.
600,000, and so
But how do you classify those crimes? Because crime could be a Class A misdemeanor. Crime could be a, murder, a felony.
right, and it's all bad. That's like saying,
I mean, but if we're all bad,
so
like,
it's okay. Mugging on the
misdemeanors-
street's fine. We'll look at that. We'll accept that. But murder, no, we can't do that. See, the problem here is that with sanctuary cities is that you're telling a sheriff that they can pick and choose which laws they can choose to enforce and which laws they can't. And that goes down to the dangerous road that you're talking about, as far as Constitution. What is supposed to be enforced and what isn't? Do we enforce the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment or not? Right? I can't choose which law I want to enforce or not. So when you get to sanctuary cities and you have a city choose or a mayor choose which federal law they're going to enforce and which ones they're not, and you say it's socially acceptable to enforce this law for speeding, because you could go down the highway at 90 miles an hour and kill somebody, or 110 miles an hour, but that's okay. But the illegal immigrant over here standing on the street corner trying to get a job who's breaking federal law is not okay.
Humanity.
But the point is, it's a rule of law. Okay, now,
I get what he's saying.
I get what
he's
you're
gonna
saying
say-
in
because
terms of you're
if you do
enforcing
it,
the law.
if you
but
do it, then it's okay. But if somebody else does it, now, so your next administration comes in and they start saying, well, we're going to round everybody up and send them back to Mexico, but we're going to let this happen here and let this slide over here. This guy can go have that fully automatic machine gun that he's not allowed to have. Where do we end up then? You want to make sure that you follow all the laws evenly, because if you don't, then you're just...
I feel like that argument had quite a few logical fallacies, no offense. But the issue that we're not going to go into, there were plenty of red herrings, but the issue
Red
here that we're
herrings.
talking about, yes.
I have brown
But
hair.
again, the issue again, the alternative to that,
He's the red herring.
here's the red herring. The alternative to that, though, is Trump's wall, Trump's refugee cities or detainment camps or whatever you decide that you want to call them, or anybody
They're
wants
not
to call them.
detainment camps. Come on.
Are they not? Because some are for profit, and anytime
What?
some
What do you-
are
what do you
very
mean
much
by
for
that?
profit.
Yeah, that was
Very much
FDR, not Trump.
There are some for-profit
Okay,
ones
so
that he's
the wall.
setting up.
Let's talk.
currently.
You want to talk about the
Well,
wall?
let's talk
All
about
right,
it.
let's
Talk
go with
about
the
the
What's the
wall.
point
First
of
of all,
the
who's
wall?
going to pay for the wall?
Right.
I
Who's
have
gonna pay for the wall?
I have no idea who's going to
Maybe his cabinet
It's
can
going to
pay.
be
'cause
us.
there's
It's
so
going to be
many-
all of us in the studio. That's who's going to pay for the wall.
I would like his cabinet to pay. They have all the money.
Here's the really
so-
fascinating thing to me.
And he
about
already
the
said that it's being designed right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And who's paying for this designing?
This is the most
whatever.
fascinating thing about Trump that I think is absolutely
You
amazing.
think a lot of things are fascinating.
Oh, it's incredible. It's incredible what he's done. He's
sense of wonder about
upended.
the
He's
world.
upended
Totally.
politics in this country, and he's done it in 1 year. He's completely changed the playbook. It's fascinating. So what's interesting about the wall is that Trump has his campaign. He said he's going to build a wall. Hundreds of thousands of people would say build a wall. He said he wanted to cut down drugs. This is what got me with Trump when he was campaigning in New Hampshire. And he had a town hall in I think it was Concord, New Hampshire, and he said he brought up the issue of illegal heroin, and I don't know if you guys know this or not. I'm from New England, and in New England right now they are having a massive heroin epidemic.
Oh, yeah, I'm from Ohio. And so
Yeah,
there's
it's all over
yeah.
the north. It's huge. I've had 3 of my former students die.
Wow.
Okay, of heroin. Several people I went to high school with have passed away from heroin. And it's a huge epidemic. You can walk down some of the city streets there and just see people just slumped over on the side of the road, just, completely out of it. And when Trump addressed that, he was the first politician I heard actually address that and say that there are towns in New Hampshire who have been devastated by heroin. Where's that heroin coming from? Mexico. Right? You can't deny
But
it.
we can't track that. How do we know the heroin is coming from Mexico?
From the cartels somehow.
How do we know that? There's no documentation. The people who are on heroin are not going, oh yeah, I just got this from this guy over the border. That's where it came from.
Go watch
we
Drugs
need some-
Incorporated. It's on the Discovery Channel. You
Hey,
can see where the
but-
drugs are coming from. It's coming from
But
Mexico.
I also want to be sure that our
But-
president is going after this heroin epidemic and not coming
let me
back to.
finish.
How
So
about
what's,
ahead,
what's
sorry,
being done
sorry.
about the Canadian syrup mafia?
so what's happening is that there's the wall, there's the heroin epidemic, and then there's the whole drug running thing, and then illegal immigration, which is the issue. And the wall tackles 3 of his major campaign things that he's going at. So what's happening here is that with one slogan, build a wall, he has, found a simplistic solution to 3 very complex problems. Okay, and so that is a winner in the world of politics. When you can say, build a wall, and anybody who's interested in the drug crisis is like, yeah, we need to build a wall. Anybody who's interested in illegal immigration, yeah, we need to build a wall. This is fantastic. Now, as far as actually who's going to pay for it, this is really fascinating. Now, he could do, now what he did was start to engage with the president of Mexico, Mr. Nito, which is Nito, by the way.
Ba-dum-bum.
And so what he did is he engaged in negotiations with this guy, and then he came out and with one tweet said Mexico's going to pay for the wall, and we're going to have, and if they don't, we're going to have a 20% tax. Okay? And I find that amazing because what he did is he just set the ground rules for negotiating with Mexico. And I guarantee you what's going to happen in a month or maybe 2, Mr. Nito is going to come to Washington. They're going to go into a closed door. They're going to shut the door, and then 2 or 3 hours later, they're going to come out. Donald Trump is going to shake hands. They're going to be all smiles. And what's going to happen is they're going to agree to a 5% or a 7% trade tax. Okay, it's not to 20%. Mexico is going to say, hey, wow, we dodged a bullet. We don't have to pay 20% tax on exports into the United States. Donald Trump is going to say, hey, Mexico, man, these guys were tough negotiators, but what fantastic people. Buy Mexico. These are great people. Buy everything you can from Mexico. And then what's going to happen is all of the imports are going to come in. With that 5% tax, he's going to make more money than he would have made with a 20% tax because he's going to increase the imports in from Mexico. The wall will get paid for. And then the president will go back and look good to his people because he got not a 20% tax, a lower tax. And then the cartels, hopefully, will be able to not sell their drugs in the United States, hopefully, although that's wishful thinking. And then maybe their power will crumble. And then maybe they can, hopefully root out the corruption in Mexico. It's a win-win for everybody.
I don't see the president of Mexico paying any tax. He loses
Well,
all
no,
credibility in his own country.
I'm saying
Right.
if he agrees to any
he,
type of deal.
he may
with
be
President Trump.
forced to. He might not have a choice.
I mean,
Who's
let's be
enforcing it?
honest. I mean,
It's not
the
gonna be
people
us.
that I know from Mexico, they say that the drug cartels run the government. So
Exactly.
I'm not too hopeful in any of that. What I do want to talk about, though, is the selectiveness of what is terror when it benefits them. So, for example,
Who's them? Who,
you know, I guess the people who want to keep using the illegal immigrants and using Islam and all of that to perpetuate that we are not safe, that the terrorist attacks, you know, with the 7 countries and everything else. Why wasn't the same cry for, like, why don't they ever bring up Dylan Roof? That was an American terrorist attack. There's no mention there. Why don't they bring up the Pennsylvania police barrack attacks? Another one. Why don't they bring up the Planned Parenthood attacks? All done by white men in this country. But, you know, Sean Spicer, and like, let's take, for example, in Quebec, that attack in Quebec. First thing that, you know, they want to come out and say that it was, you know, Islamic terrorists that did it. Oh, well, come to find out, it was a white man. And then we didn't hear anything else. So why is everything so selective? Like when, and I'm not trying to turn this into a race thing, I'm just looking at what it is. But somebody from the Middle East that does something, oh, it's all bad, we got to protect this country. When a white person does it in this country, oh, you know, it's an isolated incident, you know, they've got mental issues. Well, you know, you want to keep individualizing the thing, and then when we keep seeing a pattern, that's like me, you know, shooting up heroin for 100 days, and I'm just like, oh, well, I only did it one time consecutively for 100 days.
Yeah, I
Does it-
have numbers on
does it
that too.
make sense?
Actually, you're gonna hate me for my numbers. I
Oh
come
no
up
no
with
no!
numbers,
Well, I
but
want to
twice
stop.
as
I
many
want to stop
people-
right there and say, first of all, anybody who wants to shoot up anything has got mental issues. I don't care what color they are.
True.
Okay, and you know your cheese has slipped off your cracker when you think that you're going to go and you know make a statement by killing somebody.
Right, I've never heard that.
It's true. I mean,
Right.
I am as pro-gun as anybody. I'm rabidly Second Amendment, pro-Second Amendment,
And I can't wait to talk about that. I cannot wait.
Let him finish.
I don't even know.
But
if we
I'm
have time.
rabidly Second Amendment. But I am not going to go kill people, and I don't condone people going to go kill people, and I don't want people to die. Okay, and I think if what you're saying, I agree with you, is absolutely true. If it is true, I want to place blame on the media, and I want to say, media people, you need to report this just as much. I agree 100% because if it's a white guy, okay, who's shooting up places, I'm sorry, but I'm a big fan of Malcolm X, who said that, you know, when a white guy comes into my neighborhood, I want to shoot back at him. Because if a black guy goes into a white neighborhood and starts shooting people up, they can shoot back at him. Fair is fair, as far as I'm concerned. And protecting yourself is very, very important. And the Second Amendment is truly one of the most colorblind amendments, I think, because it doesn't say anything about who can or cannot have a
I
gun.
absolutely fundamentally disagree with you saying that is colorblind. There's nothing in this
What?
country that is colorblind. Not in the slightest, especially not the Second Amendment. You
The
know,
your Second Amendment rights were the first rights that were taken away from you after the Civil War was
but they're
over.
not colorblind. They're
But
not colorblind by any
you-
means. Think about it.
you're
If I was-
right.
I mean, think about it. If, no offense, but if James was walking down the street with an AR-15, I don't even know what that is, but it sounds powerful, right? A big gun.
Actually
If James was
not.
walking down the street with a really big gun,
Okay.
chances are, even if he has the right to carry, chances are James is going to get stopped before he makes it off his step.
We've already seen an example
Right?
of that.
We've
yeah,
seen
okay,
examples
okay,
of that.
okay.
We've already
Whereas-
seen an
All right,
example.
we
granted,
have
I'll take
definitely
it back.
seen
But
those
yes,
examples.
yes, if he's
Yeah.
walking down the street with an AR-15,
And
We
then
saw it
if
at the
you
Dallas
again-
riot. It happened
but
at the
then-
Dallas riot.
True.
well, no,
And-
at the Dallas riots, remember that guy had the AR-15, and when the shooting started, he handed it to a cop.
Because
They
the
didn't
cop
report
came.
that.
Because the cop
no,
came to him.
he
though.
was down on the ground, and he handed his rifle to a cop and said, "Take this and shoot back." Okay.
After it was reported, and his picture
No,
was
well,
all
it was-
Right.
well,
plastered
it was
But the
all
going
thing
on.
over
is, but the
the
thing is,
television
he has the right to
social media.
carry. He
Plastered
had the
his
right to
picture
carry.
all
But
over
he
social
wasn't able to
media.
carry because he was stopped, right? And then they also wanted to
No,
say,
he
well,
wasn't
maybe
stopped. He was part of
he
the
was
protest.
absolutely stopped. He
No, he
was a part
wasn't.
of the protest, and he was stopped.
No, he
was
wasn't.
stopped with his AR-15. Yes, he was.
No.
You lose
All right,
your
we
right
got-
to
we-
carry when you're stopped. I feel like something's gone wrong.
But the thing
here.
about it is, why should he have been stopped if he wasn't waving it?
And you're
what
in a
I
state
read-
where you
what
have
I
the
read-
Open carry.
What I read in the news, and we maybe need to check our sources here, but what
Washington
I read was
Post.
that when the shooting started, that guy, forget his name, I apologize,
Yeah,
but he
yeah,
ducked
I
for
don't
cover,
remember his name either.
and then a police officer came by and he handed his AR-15 to a police officer for the purpose of shooting back.
Steve, that's the first time I've ever heard that one.
That's
Yeah, it was on.
definitely
The,
the
we'll
first
have to
time
look
I've
that
ever
up because it was
Yeah, that's
on.
the first time.
It was
But
in
let's
one of
move
the
on.
NRA news.
Kellyanne Conway got
Alternative
into
facts.
a big, yes, Miss
I'll let y'all
Alternative
take that
Facts
one.
herself.
I didn't do a lot of studying
She
on that. I'll
has,
let y'all do the alternative facts.
She did a very wrong, idiotic thing, maybe to her own ignorance, okay? Endorsing Ivanka Trump's line after it was being dropped from Nordstrom as she was in the White House, you know.
Now-
You are
now-
a government
come
official.
on.
You know there's a federal violation against that. Like that, you can't do that.
They're like,
First of all, nobody should be taking style sense from Kellyanne Conway after her outfit on the awards night.
Stop it. You're funny.
But
Kellyanne Conway had to apologize to Trump, and I was like, "This is the lowest it gets. Like, if you've got to apologize to President Cheeto, like,
here we go.
come
She
on.
apologized to him?
She did because she was like, "Oh, my bad. I made a wrong move. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done that." Why Kellyanne Conway?
I
Just
thought we were
why?
against making fun of people for their skin color.
Excuse me.
wasn't.
We won't call him President Cheeto anymore.
Senior
I won't
staff from the
further
previous
that.
administration said if this happened in the Obama White House, she'd have been fired.
Now, what did she? What for the Nordstrom?
For
thing?
Nordstrom
That's what
comment.
we're talking about.
Well, there's probably a few other things
I have
too.
a problem with
but-
this. She probably should be fired. I don't know, but the issue is we're talking about it. I mean, it's Nordstrom. Why are we talking about
I'm
this?
coming,
Why can't we
Cedric.
talk about?
Sorry.
Why can't we talk about things that actually matter? You
Yeah.
know? That's my issue.
I just think she's
This is dominated. It's like
That's because there's something else. I believe that this all about money. He's going to lead Bennett is in lead us into a war, and we all know that war is big money. Think about it. The 7 countries that are on this Muslim ban, you know what? They're independent countries. They don't have a central bank system. Everyone else does. It's about the money. It is about the money. I don't care what anybody says. He's going to take us into war. It's going to be big money for him, and we're all going to be screwed.
You're going above my
At
pay
the
grade
end
there.
of the day. At the end of it, I honestly believe that is what it is. I went back and I looked at some of Steve Bannon's interviews, and I'm like, wow, this man is worse than Dr. Evil. I mean, it is
Is
going
this the guy that was
to
with
be...
Goldman Sachs and who's the Treasury Secretary?
No, that's not.
That's another one. We'll get
We
to.
got
We'll
to bring
talk
up that
about
one
him.
because that's
I think
interesting.
that
That's interesting.
The Treasury
Yeah.
Secretary, anybody that, first of all, if you say you've come from Goldman Sachs, just throw your resume away and start over.
Yeah.
Because Goldman Sachs destroyed the United States in 2008.
And when does the same
Now,
campaign...
I want to
wait,
hear
wait,
what
wait,
you have to
Calvin,
say.
Calvin.
Okay,
Let's
go.
go.
Calvin's
No. The 2008 financial crisis was all of the government's making. This is what happens when the Federal Reserve comes around in the early 90s and tells all of these big banks, they say, look, now all of these people are going to come to you and they're going to ask for housing loans, all right? And you're going to give it to them, whether they're qualified or not. And they issued penalties if they were to decline these inadvisable loans. And they also said, we'll cover the cost. Now, companies do not have the incentive to engage in stupid decisions because if they do stupid things, they go out of business. But when the government comes along and gives them every possible incentive to do the stupid thing, you get stupid results. And what happened in 2008 was really just the culmination of 15 years of bad policy centralized in an unthinking federal system that really doesn't need to exist.
But it still comes
For
back
those of
to
you who don't know,
the
Calvin's a
2000
libertarian and doesn't like the government. But
90% of it really just kind of needs to go away.
90% of the government, and so then what do we do?
That's a rounded figure. That's when we
I'm
start to
like
trust in our
95%,
states, as the 10th Amendment was designed to ensure, or we have individual liberty, which is something that I've always kind of been a fan of.
Individual liberty.
The
So
10th
you want to live
Amendment,
as
the
a
10th
sovereign
Amendment
citizen.
says anything
Pretty damn
that
close.
anything that's not in the Constitution, not mentioned in the Constitution, is reserved for the states
Which
to
is a
handle.
really small list. You'd be shocked how small the
but
list
it's the
of
states are supposed
federal
to do
powers
it. So
are.
that's not saying that there isn't supposed to be control. It's just the control is supposed to be localized.
Ordered liberty. That's all it is.
Ordered
it's-
liberty.
Credits to Dr. John Tyler for that. James knows what I'm talking about.
It's federalism.
James, what is he talking about?
It's a law professor we have.
Oh, okay.
That's
I
what
don't
he
know.
said.
It doesn't.
Listen, guys, you know, if I had the time, I could do the whole hour of the show. But this segment is only 30 minutes long, and we have reached our time.
God.
I absolutely want to thank all of you. This was so engaging. Will you guys come back?
Sure.
Always.
Always,
yeah, now that I know where it
always.
is.
I couldn't
Good
get a word
one.
in edgewise. These two were going at it.
I
need to
know,
get back.
right?
Hey, this was engaging,
wait.
and I just looked at the clock, and I'm like, yo, it's time to wrap.
Wow.
So thank you, Mr. James Burnett,
It's good to
Samantha
hear.
Blair, Mr. Calvin
Maynard.
I'm going to get it right, and Steve Moss.
Thank you.
all for participating in the roundtable.
Thanks for inviting
Thank
me.
you for inviting
Thanks for
us.
having us.
Always.
Please come back. And thank you for listening to Access Houston.
That's a wrap.
That's me. Slide over.
How you feel first time?